What's going on? We're going to try again for what I was doing the other day, which was to let people who are at Gatlinburg share stories. So I've got one person that and talk about what it was like to be there. What's up, Q? I know you were there, so you got to have stories. Do you want to join in? I've got Frostbite. He's going to be joining. I'm sure you guys know him. He had some stories he was willing to share. So, yeah. I wanted to do more than speculate from the sidelines since I just stayed here in Raleigh, but a lot of what went down is kind of the culmination of why. And I'm not really in the lowered scene, so I'm someone who didn't care, is not really all that into it, and I stayed home because it's never really been my scene. A lot of the conversation about gatekeeping, though, and I get it, and I halfway agree with it, is kind of why I don't have an interest in the stance scene. I think they gatekeep too much in some areas, but then obviously when you have idiots showing up that have nothing to do with your scene, that's a different story, and I get kind of the calls for that gatekeeping. But I do think there is a certain discussion of where people want to start. Uh-oh. You sit down. He says he's not able to join. What's going on, Terry? Yeah, hold on. Q, if you want to join in, I'll see if I can let you join. Okay. Well, I didn't go. Yeah, I don't. It's not my scene, but I think the problems are stuff that is going to be a bigger problem for people in the car industry in general, or the car scene in general. Try to invite him again here. I don't know why it's not letting him join. I always felt like it was chaos. Like I feel like there's some videos now that are kind of cherry picking what the previous years were like, and I'm sure they definitely had much less chaos and nonsense in previous years than they had this year. This year absolutely broke it and destroyed it for everybody. But I've seen stuff like that in the past too. That's kind of why I always made fun of it, and I always had no interest in going. I do know, and I did see, like, if Frostbite will join, he's someone that I think he's lowered, but he's not stanced, and he's not slammed. Like, he's not to the ground. Like, he keeps it drivable, and he keeps it usable, but I think he has, springs and coilovers, that kind of thing, just to lower it to whatever his tastes are. And, the gatekeeping with that kind of stuff is like, well, if you're not scraping the ground, you're not one of us. So if you just, here we go. What's going on, Deck?
Yo, what up?
Yo, so I was just kind of setting the mood. I did kind of a speculation the other day when they were shutting down Jimmy's the first time. And at that point, I was, pissed off as a business owner because I was like, I understand why they're shutting down the meat, but I don't understand why they're shutting down the gas pumps. Like, now you're shutting down a permit-paying business from making money. And then after that, the next night, it's kind of like, well, anything the cops do is basically justified now. So any overreach they did, anything where they stepped out of line is washed away by the absolute chaos and the stuff that just begged them to join.
Yeah, I mean, so I got into town Wednesday. We cruised the strip a little bit. I think Wednesday night, I don't know if it was Wednesday, I think it was Thursday night was the night Jimmy's was shut down. And I think what happened was it got too big. They couldn't manage the strip or the traffic. And I think the town or the county actually told them, actually, you can't be open. This is now an event problem and you don't have an event permit.
Okay.
Because historically, Jimmy's was always the place that was like, yeah, come here, hang out, take pictures.
Yeah, and that kind of makes sense. It's like once it's backing up onto the street, there's not really a lot they can do, and they're clearly not managing it.
Right.
And when I started Googling what the laws are in that county, they're some of the worst laws I've seen for any kind of unpermitted car meet. Can pretty much get shut down instantaneously in that town. And it's like, it kind of begs the question to me, if 5 cars show up to go get dinner and stand around by their car too long, like, what stops the cops if they weren't like slam busy like they were with absolute chaos? If they were just bored like normal, what stops the cops from stopping 5 guys from going to get dinner together if they all drove separately in nice cars and parked next to each other? And so, like, I kind of also had the question for why this town is still the spot because it's so busy with tourist activity anyway that clearly the town doesn't want this event and hasn't wanted this event for a couple of years.
I mean, they can say they don't want the event, but they keep approving the permit until
Yeah,
this past weekend where they pulled it on Sunday.
yeah, and and I think everyone's right. I don't think the permit's coming back.
No.
And then, and I'm seeing kind of a shift in the right direction. Like there's a number of events that have been pulled here in Raleigh now, not by the county, not by the city or anything like that, but just event organizers are just like, yeah, you know what, we're going underground. Any meet we do in the future, for at least for a while, is going to be invite only. Like Phantom, I think it was. Phantom immediately pulled an event that they were going to do, which I don't think it was something I had on my calendar anyway, but I did take notice. And it's like, in one sense, I'm like, good for you guys, because meet organizers are starting to realize we can't control this. That's why I've never done public meets.
Well, I mean, you can also just look at the Galleria, for example. I mean, that was the go-to spot for actual money on the table racing,
Right.
and that was never advertised. That was if you
Yeah.
knew, you knew. If your friends were going, they told you, and you tagged along. You hung out. People would go jump on the highway and go do their races and come back. And then somebody posted it up, and I went there that night, and I don't know, what was it, 15 Morrisville, Wake County. There was a helicopter over us, and it was actually still pretty chill. It was just too big.
Yeah, yeah, and that was funny because you were the first person that clued me into that, and I don't race. So I was like, I kind of want to go because it's the underground scene, and I can just chill and observe. But also at the same time, it's like it did not take long from like when you told me to the few times that it even popped in my head to think to go, and I just get lazy and not go.
Right.
It wasn't but a month or two after you told me for the first time, because I'd never heard of it, and then I never shared it either. I was just kind of like, well, it's like I'm glad there is still an underground community of if you know, you know. But yeah, it was such a shame that like I never got to check it out. So I've always done like the car club stuff, and I feel like that's much easier to defend if something was to happen. Like we've had a couple of meets where it's like a VQ pulls in, starts revving and doing stuff in front of us, and if I have to talk to the cops, it's very easy to say like, no, look, we're a club meeting to go get dinner, and we're all this same car, and he doesn't drive the car, and we didn't invite him, and he shouldn't even know about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's also part of it is that, the car community has lost the community aspect of it where you don't know these people who are showing up. They just want to see it get big so they can post pictures and videos to their social media and, get their 15 minutes of clout. Oh, I got the biggest meet. Look at the turnout. Meet's lit. And meanwhile, they know two people who showed up out of the 100 that came to do a takeover.
It's also interesting too, like the calls for gatekeeping, like with the GAT community. Like I think the Slams community is kind of already the worst community for really heavily wanting to gatekeep, because what they don't. I get that you don't need giant lifted trucks there, and you don't need exotic car owners there, and you don't need people that have nothing to do with the Slam scene. But at the same time, the organizers don't care. The organizers want tickets sold. The vendors want merch sold, and if you gatekeep too much, and the stance scene can't produce the turnout that the vendors and the event promoters want, the event dies from that. It's going to be a slower death. It's going to take a little bit longer, and it's not going to die because of bad behavior, which is a good thing. But ultimately, the event will still shut down when they don't make projections. They're not growing.
Oh yeah.
The vendors are complaining they're not selling enough because, Car Drugs isn't out there like, hey, before I sell you this T-shirt, how low is your car? You know what I mean? Like, so then there does have to be like a place for kids to start, but there needs to be a humbling as well. I think one gatekeeping that needs to happen.
I'm all about gatekeeping it. Like, if your car is dog shit, somebody needs to tell you that. Like, bring something that's worth looking at then.
Yeah. But like also, that in that sense, you kind of got to have, so like Cars and Coffee Morrisville, like you kind of got to have areas where it's like, all right, spectators park over here.
Right.
The show's up here, so like the cars that, want to have earned it or have put work into it, they park by that center building, the VIP area if they're exotics, that kind of thing. And then like even where I have our club park, we're like down in that lower lot out of the way.
Yeah.
So, like, nobody's ever complained. Like, a couple people realize the convenience of that spot and try to, like, snipe our spots, but like nobody's ever really complaining that we're trying to steal the show because we're not. We don't care. I find
Right.
it super easy to get in and out of there, which is why I picked that location. And nobody was fighting for those spots because it wasn't the center of attention. So that's immediately why it was my go-to. And it's like, you know, our club is whether you're stock or not, we don't really care. People pick out what level of mods they do or don't want to do. But I think one thing that would stop a lot of this is if we hit them where it hurts. Hit them in the pussy, right? Like get the girls, the young girls, to understand that if you're hanging out, like, so all these rich dudes that want a sugar daddy, some young hot little girl, like, start cutting these girls off if they're hanging out with these idiots. Start making it known to these young girls that it's like you're going to be outcast and no one's going to hire you as a model. No one's going to talk to you. No one's going to repost your shit if you're hanging out with some loser takeover boy.
I don't know. I think it still runs deeper than that.
The men will stop.
To an extent, but I think it runs deeper than that. I think that's just a plus for these guys. I think it is ultimately just the social media. You know, you want to get the clips, you want to get the likes. I mean, hell, look at Omar in the Midnight Purple R34, and the cops run up and, you know, grab what looked like a Tech 9 off of his passenger seat. Much love to you, Omar, if you end up watching this. But I was talking to the cop there, and even the cop I was talking to said they don't care. You know, they know people are going to come into town. They know it's a tourist destination. Yeah. He said between Slammedenuff and like Jeep Invasion, it gets tight and they can't stand it. But he was like, you know, you don't see us going out and messing with the 10, 20 cars that park in actual parking spots and then set up, you know, event chairs along the strip. You know, it's when you try to jam 100, 200 cars into a parking lot that's not meant for that it becomes a problem. And that's ultimately what ended up happening with Jimmy's, because people, you know, we had Cookout, we had Walmart. They shut down the lot next to Wonderworks, which used to be the go-to because it was just a big lot. Whatever was next to Wonderworks went out. So there was no reason for anybody else to be there. They shut that one down too. So it was like, where else are you supposed to go? And everybody just focused on Jimmy's because, you know, over the last few years, they were always very accommodating. And it got too big, too stupid, and ended up with, you know, the clips you see, the couple of idiots fighting it out in the lot, people climbing on top of the buildings, climbing on top of the pumps. There's a couple of videos where after the cops, I was actually there when the cops first pushed everybody out. I saw gas masks start going up on the heads, and I saw big cans of, like, riot control mace come out. I was actually walking with Shipbox Garage, and he was like, I was like, yeah, I think it's time to go. And they pushed everybody out of the lot. They put the barricades up. And then there's videos of, you know, one or two people push the barricades over and everybody just floods back in. It was stupid.
Yeah, no, and that was the thing. Everybody I heard with a brain pretty much said as soon as I saw the gas masks come out, they're like, I was out. Like everybody with a brain was like, they know it's about to get stupid. They know that the force has been justified to a certain point. And they were like, you know, this isn't.
Yeah, I didn't realize how bad it was.
Like time to go home.
I didn't realize how bad it was. I sat out on the strip from like 4 until 11 just because I couldn't get through Sevierville. I tried to go back to the Airbnb. I tried to go north on the strip to go and do something because I wasn't trying to actually go to the show. It was just so gridlocked. I sat like an hour and a half in traffic just going nowhere before I finally went back to Pigeon Forge and just sat up on the strip to just watch some cars. And, you know, it was pretty good up until, you know, the show ended at 7, you know, 5, 6, 7 o'clock rolled around and more people started coming down from the show and it just got so packed. I started seeing neighboring sheriff's office coming in. And right about 11 o'clock was where it started getting a little stupid. So we all left. I didn't realize how bad it got until I was on the drive home.
Yeah, what I don't understand either, because when I go to anything, Cars and Coffee, just like I said earlier, my mind is where can I park to get out of here as quickly as possible if I want to leave in the middle of this, if I'm just bored. Like, whatever I want to do, I don't want to sit. Like, I'm just impatient. I don't want to sit and wait in some line of traffic. So if I can park a mile up the road where nobody is and walk to Jimmy's if I was going to go there, that'd be my whole plan. That would be something I'd be on Google Maps planning out the night before. Like, all right, I'm going to park a mile out this way.
752 Infinite, I was down there with him, and he could tell you we parked, you know, half mile up the strip, and then we were like, oh, we'll walk down to Jimmy's and see what we find. It was just too packed. It was too stupid. We didn't want to be anywhere close to it.
I'll throw it out to him or anybody else. If anyone else has more stories, please join in. I'll give you the request to join in. But yeah, it's just that's anything I go to. It's where can I park? It's going to be easy to get in and out of. Where can I not sit in the? I mean, I'm driving a manual like a lot of people are, so I just want to get in my
Yeah.
car and go. I don't want to, first crawl 1,000 times for an hour and then, and yeah, like I just don't get how it's gotten that bad. Like so I remember, I think last year was the calmest based on what went on social media. And I don't know if that was because post Helene, a lot of people chilled out and understood like everybody in the mountains is pissed and
Yeah.
crazy, and like we want to be chill and we want to bring food
Yeah.
and donate and support the businesses. But I think 2023 there was a lot of nonsense going on.
Yeah, that was the first time I ever went. I actually remember I drove the Skyline completely unregistered, didn't even have a title for it yet. I couldn't even prove I owned this car in the US, and I drove it out there 3 days after getting it from the Port of Virginia. Um, yeah, it got a little bit retarded on the strip, but it wasn't this bad, and that might have just been because people were doing spread out meets between Wonderworks and Walmart and anywhere else on the strip. Wonderworks was definitely the problem area in 23.
Okay, is that upside down building?
Yeah, so it's got the Hard Rock Cafe, and then it's got some other sort of theater right next to it that's been out of business for a couple years. So it's just a big empty lot, and there's no business there. So everybody was like, let's park here. I remember my Airbnb was directly across from that and just up the road. So we just literally walked down from the Airbnb, set up chairs, and had some beers on the strip and watched the stupidity ensue.
Yeah, and I love that kind of stuff. The other thing about GAT that always turned me off from it is, and any car group that's ever done a group trip knows it's Russian roulette with Airbnbs because
Yeah.
nobody ever takes pictures of their driveways. And that was the hard lesson so many people in GAT learned. I remember seeing a couple of friends, most of them with 8.6s, and they might be in here. And I'm not trying to make fun of you guys if you watch it, but I watched them all put this in their stories that there was just a little bit of a lip at the front of the driveway. So everybody in this group had to take their whole front bumper off and then angle it just to get in their driveway. And I was like, this sums up why I don't want to go and why I'm not slamming my car. Like,
Right.
also, like the first time I found out about GAT and I was watching on social media, it was so interesting to see. There's two types of people that slam their cars. There's the people that trailer it, and there's the people that drive it 10 hours all the way out there, jack their car up, adjust their coilovers to lower it and camber it out as much as possible, drive around like that all weekend, and then before they go home, they have to jack it up again and undo all of that, do the best alignment they can in the street, and drive it home for 10 hours. And I was like, none of that sounds fun to me.
Yeah, you just described my buddy Ben in 23 as we jacked up his 240 to raise the suspension for the drive home.
Yeah, like I'm stock height on an FRS. I scrape on plenty of things. And I've had a few driveways in town that it's like I'll drop off a client in my car and I'm like, yeah, I'm letting you out here. Like I just look at the drive, I'm like, no. And so like I just for drivability, I'm not lowering it. And it's already hard on my back at stock height, stock suspension. Um,
I don't know. I think just at the end of the day, with any sort of destination event, H2OI, GAT, it just gets too big for what it is. It attracts too many people, and just law of large numbers. The more people you attract, the more idiots you're going to get.
yeah,
And I think it's almost an inevitability, especially something centrally located on the East Coast. If it's something up in New York or Connecticut, you're probably not going to get a lot of people from the Southeast coming to it. But with it being centrally located halfway down the East Coast, you'll still get a good number of people from Maine all the way to Miami,
yeah.
and then even people coming in from the Midwest. And it almost seems like an inevitability with an event getting that big. It's something that people hype up all year, and they tell all their friends, and all their friends make, plans to come in groups of 10, 15 people. I just don't think there's much else you can do about it besides just gatekeeping the event and doing it somewhere that has more infrastructure. I mean, hell, they could do it in Knoxville. I'm sure Knoxville has a convention center.
The infrastructure is probably the biggest thing. And I mean, like when you see towns like that in the
100%.
mountains where there's one way in and one way out, like the last trip we did with the car club was Helen, and to run the gauntlet. And that's
Yeah.
that's a route that most people like only true car enthusiasts know about the Gauntlet because it's not the tail, it's not the back, and
Yeah.
so it's not as touristy. But Helen is kind of a touristy trap family town, and so it was kind of interesting to navigate that because Helen doesn't have the infrastructure if our event had gotten big for the club. We didn't have the parking at the Airbnb. It's a one-way driveway to get up, you know, with all the neighboring houses. A lot of things could have gone really, really wrong if we had more than the, like, what, I think I had 6 or 7 people at this house that we all split. It was a great time. The other thing, too, is, like, Helen is a town where you don't drive your car. If you have the Airbnb that we had, you walk into town. You don't drive your car into town because there's no
Right.
parking, and if there is, you're going to pay for parking. So
Right.
you just walk the mile, 2 mile to go to dinner, to go to, you know, shop, whatever you want to do, tube the river. And that was a great time because I picked that intentionally because in my mind it's like, all right, if I'm going to drive to this event and we're also going to drive do the Gauntlet all day Saturday, we were in the car for 16 hours over a 3-day weekend, 4-day weekend maybe, actually more of a
Yeah.
4-day weekend. 16 hours of driving is a lot of time for a 4-day weekend. So I was like, we're planning this out so Sunday we don't drive at all. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm glad I got out yesterday. I saw the traffic getting out Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, and even today, and it was just still as gridlocked as it was when I was just trying to get through town on Saturday
Yeah.
afternoon. So I'm glad I got out Sunday, and it's a real shame. Hopefully they can continue doing it, and they'll just find another location. You know, Chattanooga, Knoxville, maybe something in Western North Carolina that's got a little more infrastructure. But that's yet to
Maybe
be seen.
Asheville. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of empty lots there, but you know, it's a big enough town.
Yeah.
It's not all one way in and out. You know, there's a
There's no,
circle around Asheville, unlike a lot of these other towns.
Yeah, there's a lot more accessibility. I don't know, maybe Asheville. Don't they do it in like Hickory or Concord too?
Yeah, that those could be really good. Anything around Charlotte, there's
No,
a
I'm saying
lot.
Slammedenuff doesn't Slammedenuff do an event
Oh,
in like Concord?
there is one in North Carolina, I remember, or South Carolina. I don't remember where it is. But I do remember seeing a smaller one that it's kind of like, okay, like
Hell,
even
at this
I know
point,
like it's not yet.
just just do the typical tourist trap and do it at Myrtle.
Yeah, I mean Myrtle is already used to the riots just happening on a Tuesday, so I mean,
Yeah, exactly. So they'll be well prepared for it.
yeah. I don't know. It's super crazy. Oh, another interesting thing I did in my research. There's a website called dflock.me. So if you track flock cameras, where
Hmm.
those go up, and I think that's just a good thing. You know, everybody save that. You know, keep in mind even if you don't have any nefarious intent, it's just good to know. There's a couple of them
Yeah,
in
I've seen there's
Sevierville,
two in a
in
gas station
Gatlinburg.
lot by me, and I passed
Yeah.
actually two of them on I-75 coming to and from in Georgia.
So some of those charges are not done, like they're not done charging people if they start going through the license plate readers. You
Right.
know, like they'll be rolling out charges, I think, all week for the stuff that was going on in Gat, and you know, that's disturbing on many levels. And unfortunately, too, it's come out that like this stuff's not perfect either, so the AI can mess up the numbers. Uh, so it's entirely possible people could get charged for stuff that, like, okay, well, you're driving the same kind of car and your license plate's similar enough, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, short of devolving into a Louis Rossman video, I know what you're saying. I gotta hop off here, but it was good
okay.
talking to you. If you have any other questions about it, I was there pretty much the entire time. So
Yeah. If anybody else has a story, I'll stay in here for about 5 more minutes after he leaves. But other than that, I'll probably shut it down too. But thank you, Zach.
talk to y'all
Yeah.
later.
Yeah. Anybody else has a story you want to come in and share it? Like I said, I'll give it about 5 minutes, and if nobody has anything, I'm going to shut it down. But I kind of just wanted to go over that and let somebody who was there explain some of what they were seeing because it's low key like this everywhere now. I have not seen in Raleigh that kind of people jumping on gas pumps, climbing on buildings, that kind of nonsense, but it's getting very close to that. And, you know, Raleigh already doesn't have a lot of tolerance for this stuff. Like if you don't have a place like 7-Eleven that has limited tolerance for this, to allow the people to be there and have our backs, the car scene's pretty much getting shut down for pop-up meets. You're pretty much going to need cars and coffee money to hire police, to patrol your event, to donate a bunch of money to charities and towns, or they're just not going to let you do it anymore. and it's not really something I want to see. So I kind of wanted to have this discussion and see. You know, say inline bin. I live here, however, there's some stuff in the county that did set the stage for something like this to happen. Yeah, like I could kind of tell by the laws your county has that they don't have a lot of tolerance for it. And I guess it's like Zach was saying, there's a couple of car events that come to your area, and there's a lot of nonsense that'll happen. I mean, plus if you have an area with a lot of heavy tourism, even in the family spots, people go on tourist trips and they just start acting up for some reason. Like I don't know why a dude with kids and family goes to a place like Gat, Dollywood or whatever, and gets drunk, gets into fights with random strangers, and acts a fool. Like when you're on vacation, I feel like you're at a much higher risk for getting arrested or something stupid going down because you're not in your hometown and you don't know the people, and you're just showing your ass when you go somewhere. But yeah, and I got to hand it. At first, I was a little annoyed Thursday when they shut Jimmy's, kind of not understanding what was going on. From a business owner perspective, and now hearing the stories that people are coming out with, like I think the cops seem to do a pretty good job, and any overreach or abuse that occurred is going to be overshadowed by the absolute justifications that they got to come in and shut this stuff down, which is unfortunate because if there is anything for them to be accountable for, they're not going to be held accountable. But as far as the presence I saw and the police chief, there's a video of him going viral. He pretty calmly and articulately explained what was going on and why they were shutting down Jimmy's again, and that there had been a fight and that there had been a stabbing and just all kinds of stupidity that it just really makes it hard to defend the car scene right now. And I get it. I definitely encourage everybody going underground. I definitely encourage invite-only meets. And then, having people work their way into these circles, earn the trust of the community, show that you have something. Yeah, you want to join? I'll let you in here. All right. Give it 1 second there, and Ben will be joining us. What's up, Ben?
Hi.
How's it going?
How's it going? Yeah, so I'm at work. I just happened to come across the live stream, but like everyone else, my entire social media is just filled with it. And just being kind of like on the back side of things, I've lived here pretty much my whole life. And I'll go to Rod Run every year, Truck Fest, you're just in town, so you go see them. There's also Ponies in the Smokies, there's Jeep Invasion, there's a long list. There's a Bronco show, pretty much everything you can think of. The one thing that was really strange about this year, actually kind of leading up to it, was really on Monday, like when we had many of the pre-meets, many of the vendors who were really setting up for this thing at the city council meeting where they stripped all of their permissions and whatnot to have, the pre-meets and whatnot. It kind of set the stage on social media because people are like, ooh, outrage. That it brought in a lot of people that locally, we all run around the same friend groups, like on Facebook, on Instagram. So it's like there were a lot of people who were posting from Slammedenuff who I know, they go to Rod Run, they went to Truck Fest, they weren't really the type to kind of go to that kind of car show, but just because of the drama online, they showed up. But essentially, I feel like if they had facilitated and kind of opened up a lot of those lots, there would have been significant number of people not on the strip, whereas it's similar with the other stuff because Rod Run, believe it or not, Rod Run and Jeep Invasion are much bigger than GAT. Like GAT was bringing, I think it was like 20 to 25,000 cars and then assumed triple the people. And then Jeep Invasion, like that's 50, 60,000 usually. Rod Run and Truck Fest actually happen the same weekend now because I'm not sure if they just happen to do it on top of each other, but that can be 50, 60,000 as well. So, I would drive around because I know all the spots, every single year. And it's like every single spot they're kicking people out from the island to the top brick lot, that's usual after 10 p.m. That's, they usually close that off. But a lot of the other meet spots, they were really trying to make sure no one was there. And it's like, a lot of people, especially younger kids, they're going to come down there and be like, well, I can't go to any of these different spots. I'm going to get up on the strip. And then, the only place that I saw on social media that's actually allowing people to come in was Jimmy's. And then all they go. into Jimmy's. So it was kind of setting the stage. So I was almost surprised it didn't happen earlier, like, Friday night or Thursday night, especially when they shut it down for a little bit. But that was pretty disappointing because it was on the edge the whole time.
Yeah, that makes sense, and that's kind of the kind of stuff I was looking for to hear. Not really to justify my own theories, but it didn't make sense the way it all went down. And I can see like a town like that, it makes a lot of sense because it's like it's a parking lot for restaurants or other stuff. They probably know that they want the families to come in and spend money at the restaurants, and they're not looking for these younger kids that maybe don't tip, don't spend money. Everybody sits down and orders a water. Like they want the adults that are going to drink and the kids that are going to, each get a meal, and then they all get in one car and leave. And so it makes sense because like I've long thought about I wanted to check out the town. I've wanted to see like it looks like an awesome town and it looks like there's a lot to do. The way I think about road trips is I like to drink when I go on vacation. So once I get to a town like that, I'm parking at my room and I'm probably trying to walk everywhere I go so I can drink, so I don't have to drive, so parking's not an issue. And that really looked like a town where just on a normal weekend, parking's going to be an issue.
Well,
So
actually, yeah, you'd be surprised. So yes, on the weekends, like parking's an issue, but really throughout the week, like if you're local, like most places, like I would have no problem getting to a lot of different places, like just knowing, how to go in the flow of traffic and whatnot. But I think, I'm not sure it was on here before, like mentioning other venues in the area. They've mentioned Knoxville and some other places, and it's not possible. Like I work in Knoxville, went to school in Knoxville. It's the thing with Knoxville is there's a ton of one-ways. It's like to even imagine the amount of people like that would come to an event in Knoxville and have things to do. It's like if you thought Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg police were bad, you just wait. Knoxville has a bigger budget. They don't entertain car events. And Pigeon Forge, on the other hand, they are really like kind of like a car town. Like people used to compare it to essentially like before, like when Rodrun sprang up as being like the little Radiator Springs, really and truly. Like it's a strip. It has wide alleyways. Like that is something they're very, very much used to. And I think this might be one of the only major car events that have ever explicitly been canceled, like by the county, and not pulled by the event itself for something that went on. So that was actually really surprising to see. But yeah, it's like it's kind of a shame because you're right there by the Dragon, Terre Haute Skyways, the Foothills Parkway. There's a lot of different things to do. Like, and you're within a 30-minute drive, and you can stay there. So, and there's so many different places. Like, you'll see like all the Instagram posts of like all the views and everything. It's like, man, there's so many other ones you can see that are way better. It's all over the place. It really is if people really knew about it. But it sucks. But yeah.
yeah, I mean it's interesting. I try to do with my car club major road trip every year. 2023 we did Tail of the Dragon. 2024 we did Back of the Dragon. And just this last year we did the Gauntlet with Helen, Georgia. And my first and only trip to Tail of the Dragon, it's kind of like, all right, that was cool, but I got really bored chilling there for the whole weekend because we stayed in that area and we didn't branch out enough. Back of the Dragon, I found out there was 30 minutes in every direction. There's a different town to go explore. And there's a lot to do up that way. So I enjoyed that a lot more. And Helen was there's a lot to do in that little town with the Gauntlet to drive around it. So there was a map we got in Back of the Dragon, and it's Western North Carolina, Western Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky, and all the little crazy mountain loops that you can run, like anything you can imagine. And it's like from that, I've been trying to plan where is another place we can go that's going to be like off the beaten path and not, a touristy trap too much, not, Asheville, the Blue Ridge Parkway, not the obvious places that we're going to get stuck in traffic and stuck in something else. And I think that's been something I've been trying to promote because it's like if we can go out to places that nobody's ever heard of and like there's some things to do in this small little town while we're not driving. There's a few good restaurants or whatever. It's a nice bar. Then that could be a whole different experience than like we're going to go to this tourist trap that, now everywhere we park it's going to be $10.
Yeah, I think that was also kind of just one of the attraction points to GAT in general, was the fact that not only could they go to a car show, because many people like living here, like, I just don't think of any of this stuff for the most part, but like a lot of people are driving from all these different places like that. They haven't seen anything like that. Like not only roads like that or the ability to drive like that or that many people in one place or a car show of that magnitude, it's all at once. And like on top of being able to stay in a cabin with their friends. And the fact is like there's so many different things really to do. And funny enough, just funny fact, it's just like Sevierville or Pigeon Forge like is one of the only places during the fall, because they have over Gatlinburg, which is a ski venue, and they make fake snow. So it's like anything and everything. It really is a tourist trap. But yeah, it's kind of a shame to see. I'm sure they're going to actually be replaced by something. But I wanted to ask, were you in the groups where you saw someone had reposted a comment earlier from Slammedenuff where they had said, and it makes sense because they don't like this car show, the people around here, is that they attempted to rent the convention center in Pigeon Forge to get access to the brick lot, but not host it there, and then also foot the bill for the police, because that's actually, as far as a local's perspective, that's actually what outraged me more, if true, because not only are the other big shows that are welcomed here are allowed to use that convention center. And so if you think the Sevierville Convention Center is big, you should see the LeConte. Like, it's huge. So, I mean, you have the brick lot and then the one down by the island. That parking lot's part of that convention center on the other side. So, I mean, they host some really big shows. So it's kind of a shame that they made those kind of offers and were rejected, because everyone knew that you could host it in Sevierville or back in Gatlinburg where it was, and they were going to come to Pigeon Forge, just right in the middle of the two. So, it's like after reading that and then hearing they revoke the permits and then really keeping people out of a lot of the lots that they do that I see for like Jeep Invasion, Rod Run, and all the others, it was a really big letdown. So it's like, I was kind of thinking, it's like, man, on Friday night, we had the receipts because the pushback allowed them to reopen Jimmy's on Thursday. Like, we had the pushback, we had the receipts. Like, they were accusing us of murder. And then Saturday night, we went and murdered someone, essentially.
Exactly.
So it's like, it really backfired.
That's what's like, I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina, so that's what sparked all this for me, was as a business owner. It's like, I don't see the precedent for them shutting down a business and saying you can, like, short of an actual murder investigation, you can't just go into a business and shut the business down. But like, then I Googled and I saw what the laws are in your county, and it's like, oh, well, if they're hosting an unpermitted car meet and that's illegal, well, now you have business with already violating a law, and that kind of opens the door for them to shut that business down temporarily to gain control. So it kind of put the business in a worse spot. Like I posted something saying I kind of hope Jimmy sued the police, and now it's like, well, any loss of revenue suit that they would have had, it's gone. Like that, there's no possibility of that now for them, because they clearly didn't keep control of it the second and third nights. And then I guess the other question I had for you is like, what's the general temperature of the town? Like, the town. And like the civilians mainly, not like necessarily the government officials, but is the civilians pissed?
Yeah, generally people don't like this car show compared to the others, and it's really, I think it really has to do, it's like you have an older population here, like they're used to Rod Run, like they used to, and it's like, oh, the cars are really loud, they pop, they, this and that, and it's like the only real thing that I can see that one has over the others, like, yeah, the cars scrape, they leave marks, but it's not like really, really damaging, like not that I have seen compared to other things. Because it's like when you have truck week, I mean, they care about the environment or they care about the sounds. It's like when you have Mustang week and the others, it's like those people, they're flying. And it's like those V8s are loud. Like those are some loud cars and they backfire. The trucks, like, you would fully expect black smoke all over the place. Like it is smog the entire weekend when you have those kind of shows. Like it really is. So it's like, it's kind of strange to me that it's not like they're okay with those shows. They don't like truck week. They get pissed at Rod Run, but it's like it's never to the level that you saw here. And it really comes down to social media. And I think when people saw that they kind of closed Jimmy's and they felt bad, and they saw that they opened Jimmy's and it was like a battle cry, I would promise that probably 80% of that crowd that you saw at Jimmy's in those videos probably didn't even own cars or had no idea of the show in general. They just saw it and was like, ooh, I can be a part of something. Because it's like, all of us, we're not from like a city where, you can go to like your local protest and have 50,000 people. It's just like they wanted to feel like they're kind of a part of something. So it's like, because it's like I guarantee you, like up to 80% of those people, one, didn't own a car, had no interest in the show at all. So
Yeah, like, and it's that's why I kind of based on the social media posts, the calls for gatekeeping, which it's like I halfway agree with, because there is a certain level of like control that they need, self-policing behavior, modification into some of these groups. But the slams culture to me has always been the most toxic as far as gatekeeping. If your car's not low enough, they don't like you. If your car's not low at all, or if your car looks stock, they don't like you. And it's this attitude that I notice. It's like I was telling Zach, these shows need people, and the vendors need sales. And so the vendor and the exhibitor, they don't care who's showing up as long as people were actually behaving. In theory, like they need to sell tickets and they need to sell merch, or this whole show doesn't sustain itself and doesn't pay its bills. And so it's like, if you just had only the lowered car people and the lowered car enthusiasts like they want, well, I bet you don't have enough people to actually justify this, because I've heard people talk about the convention center in Raleigh and what it costs to do a show there, and it's like, you basically write a contract for $80,000 worth of debt to have a one weekend show, and you just hope and pray that people show up.
yeah,
I don't know what it is venue by venue. Like, easily you're possibly looking at $100,000 by all said and done, if not more, if you're, need external police support. And it's like, yeah, these things aren't free. So if you have someone that shows up in stock Camry because they like the slammed cars, they don't have a slammed car, like, as long as they park, way in the back, and they're humble and they're not, trying to climb on stuff and burn everything down, like, you need those people at your show, or ultimately, like, your small little community doesn't sustain itself. And I think they seem like the community that does not get that. It's like I said, the truck people probably don't care. Like, I've been to truck shows in a sports car because I actually misunderstood what kind of show it was, and I just made the best of it. Like, I'm around these giant jacked up trucks. I hate these trucks. I feel like if you made a truck unusable for a show truck, in that kind of way, and it's just this giant chrome lift kit and giant chrome wheels on tiny thin tires, I'm like, this is useless to me. But that's the show I was at, and I made the best of it, and like, I ended up making some friends, and that's kind of, nobody cared that I showed up in an FRS.
yeah, and it's like, on another note, the how they're saying, it's a public safety concern. It's at these truck shows and during Rod Run, it's like you will see people in the back of a truck, like open back of a truck, every dozen or so cars, and they're hanging out of that thing. They're jumping on it. They're doing all sorts of stuff. In fact, it's like every Rod Run, there has been serious incidents, like this last one, or not the last one, the one before then. Like, a kid was rolling down the sidewalk on a scooter there at Walgreens, to the left of Jimmy's, if you're looking at it, not even 100 yards, coming down on a scooter, and someone who had his door opened and killed him. Like, it hit him off a scooter and he died. So it's like, there's a lot of instances. 2 other years, there were 2 people who got shot at 2 separate gas stations, like actually gun pulled, got shot. So it's like, as far as the other events, like, not causing more of a police presence is just not true. They really do need the police presence. It's just this one, with that one instance, gave them the excuse to really crack down on one. And a lot of us who are local are really probably going to really scrutinize. It's like, all right, are you going to pull the permits for the truck show? Are you going to pull the permits for Rod Run? Like, I'm very curious to see how it unfolds in the spring when they start doing more of these shows again, because it's like, it really was eye-opening, at least on Monday, like that. Like, no one was really expecting them to essentially pull permits for pre-meet, but I could be missing information. There could have been something not done correct, which is true. I mean, it could have been. That's always a possibility. But as far as, like, with the information that I've been told and from what I've seen, it's pretty much set up for failure there. But You know, and the sad part is if they had kept Jimmy's closed when they closed it on Thursday and told us like, hey, tough luck, you don't have a permit here. You're encouraging people to come to your gas station. You sell alcohol. We keep having to write, you know, open container tickets outside. You know, sorry about it, and been done with it. You know, pretty much everyone would have been over it by Friday night into Saturday, and the show probably would have went on, and we would have had Sunday and probably next year. So
Yeah.
it's hindsight's always 2020 when it comes to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of amazing. And, you know, it's going to start, like you said, in town with the people that are like local vendors that are going to be losing money, local people that were counting on these jobs at the convention center, that kind of thing. And that's a conversation, like, I definitely encourage them to bring that forth because, you know, if it's like, in my mind, the different subcultures of the car community shouldn't all be held to, you know, what happened this weekend. But like you said, if the truck people are doing those kinds of things, well, then that's the same problem in a different flavor. Because it's like, yeah, I used to be a firefighter, and actually Zach that was in here before, we served as firefighters together here in Raleigh, and so it's like I kind of have PTSD from different calls I've been on. So anytime something like that's getting so crazy, I don't want to be around it because I'm going to have to go do patient care, or I'm going to have to go like deal with, you know, the aftermath of a fight, go patch somebody up who's probably like enraged and ready to start swinging at everybody, including, you know, not realizing that I'm going to be there to like patch them up, you know, like, and I've dealt with that before in bar fights and in other situations where it's like, it really makes you question where you're at and why you're hanging out there. The older you get, because it's like I have a certain level of, like, my EMT's expired, but I feel like if people know who I am and know what I've learned, then I have a different level of liability than the average person. If I was to just be like, oh, like, that's not my problem, and I'm going to walk away from, like, that guy bleeding over there. Like, I can't do that. Or, like, I feel like that opens the door for people to be like, oh, you saw that and you didn't do anything? So,
Yeah.
like, I try to remove myself from any situation that's getting out of control like that before something happens, because once it does happen, I've got to treat them, and I've got to take care of people until EMS shows up, or until somebody actually qualified shows up to deal with it. And that's not how most people think, and it's something I forget with the training that I have. It's like I see the liability coming, and I see what the aftermath can potentially be. And like these young kids with social media, it's like you said, it's like their mentality is, oh, well, if this guy stabs this other guy, if I can get that video, I'm going to get 4.5 million views of a guy bleeding in the parking lot of this gas station. Like, they have no thought of humanity. They have no thought of like,
And
that getting
it's
subpoenaed.
yeah. On a more positive note, I mean, Slammedenuff and Gatlinburg, like as far as import or tuner cars, will be replaced by something else that just happens soon. Because I mean, Slammedenuff has competitors, and I mean, there's other show venues that are like, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, you got Slammedenuff and Gatlinburg. That's when people are gonna choose to come to it. Well, now it's like if they're not doing it, it kind of opens the doors. But it really, looking forward, the way to kind of weed out a lot of that stuff is to, one, they need to work with their first year. They need to work with getting the actual LeConte Center in Pigeon Forge, because they are always going to be more friendly to the people who got the center that are in the county. That's the first thing. And two, you don't even have to gatekeep. You just have to pay to play. It's essentially like, hey, whoever's hosting this show should be like, you want to, I know we've already paid for the slot, but in order to, you know, really keep people who want to come to this show, you want to do it as a more pay to play. So it's like entering those lots, paying for it, you know, even if it's like $5, you know, it's so you'll
Yeah,
always
they
have
would
a
have
lot
sold
of
a lot of money in parking if they just, like I said, $5 a parking spot would have solved a lot of issues. Actually, that's a good point.
So it really, I'm not going to say it's like 100%, because the reason is like they have those lots closed, but that's a huge reason, because a lot of people, it popped up on their social media and like they halfway followed cars like Thursday when they closed their local gas stations. It's like, again, a lot of those people probably weren't into slam cars or Slammedenuff to begin with. Most of them probably never went to the show. It's just they saw something they could be involved with, and that's just the type of people that sometimes live around and come to those shows. So, but trust me, every single one of those types of people are at Rod Run, they're at Ponies in the Smokies, they're at Truck Fest, they're at every single one of them. It's just now with, you know, and that's just kind of revolves around the tuner car cultures. There's a lot more social media, like people who like to make like good content of vehicles. Maybe I'm wrong from the muscle car or the truck standpoint, but you see a lot more of it, so people do follow it. So it's like Gatlinburg was like, that's where people wanted to go. So
I
when
think
they
it's also
saw
an age
things happen,
demographic.
yeah.
'Cause, I mean, the other ones you're describing, like I either see a broader range or an older range of people coming. So, like generally speaking, like the classic Mustang owners, are all going to be older typically. The younger Mustang owners are probably more problematic. The trucks, that can be a range, and Jeeps generally are also going to draw an older crowd, I think. So that
Yeah,
can kind of alleviate some of the issues. The slammed and the tuner culture is probably more centric to the younger crowd with some older people.
it is younger, which doesn't help because it really is a bunch of TikTokers. But like on the same local pages, they complain about the other shows, and it's like they'll complain really bad about the truck fest because a lot of the back roads, I don't know if they try and turn around, they get stuck. A lot of
Yeah.
the back roads get clogged up, they complain. With Rod Run, same thing. They complain about disorderly conduct. They complain about people in the back of trucks jumping up and down, just being out. Especially that has turned into a younger crowd. Like a lot of Jeeps have sound systems, music systems, and they're like, all I hear is music all night. Cades Cove, they're stopped up the traffic. They're all over there, and it's like there's off road stuff around, not crazy, but it's like they've stopped up the Dragon, they stopped up Parson Branch's Road. It's like they complain about each one. It's just now the only reason you see it's like a more unified response is because now they have receipts for it. So it's just a shame, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I appreciate you coming in and talking about that because it's an interesting perspective, and then from someone that would know, because it's these problems are kind of more broad in the car community in general. Like we see some of the same stuff on a smaller scale here in Raleigh and just about any other major town where we're like trying to have a car scene and trying to have these events because I've been in the automotive industry longer than I've been in the car scene, and I don't really do the scene stuff and the social medias for my detailing business more so than I actually care about being important. But the 2020 COVID hit, and I kind of got into going to car meets because it was kind of the loophole for a lot of people. It's like you're outside, you're in an area you're allowed to be. They're free in a lot of cases if they're just pop-up meets, and I've noticed a sharp deterioration in the culture just since then. And everyone that was in it for a long time says, a decade ago it was still way better when pre-social media. But yeah, it's amazing too because it's kind of getting to that point where in Raleigh, you can go to the convention center events and one or two people that can pay for police security can host like a big giant meet. Anybody else tries to do nighttime pop-up meets and they're not getting permission from the businesses. They're not getting a reason to be there. They're not bringing money. And if they run past 8 o'clock, they're getting shut down.
No, yeah, you're right. So, okay, well, I'm gonna hop. Thanks for speaking with me, but I hope you have a great rest of your day.
I know, Zach, do you have a problem with me reposting this video?
No, you're fine.
Okay,
Perfectly
cool.
fine.
Cool. Thank you very much, and have a good one.
Yep, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, and yeah, I'm going to repost this, so if you didn't catch the beginning of it, you can check it out. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.